Okay, so our lesson for today is how to make a document camera out of just your cell phone and some random objects around your house. And so first I thought I would model the document camera and ways that I imagine people would use it. I personally use a lot of content enhancement routines, which is a tool I've been taught and that I sometimes teach, but it requires co-construction, which means talking back and forth with the kids and writing it together. So I needed a way to record what I was writing, and I actually did this yesterday with Miss Mites. Yesterday with Miss Mites' class that I'm working with on some word work. And so we were doing a review of everything we'd learned before spring break because it's the first time they'd seen me since spring break, so I needed to refresh their little memories. And so the paper we filled out is actually right here on my desk. So this is the page that I filled out with her and the kids, which is upside down. So this is what we did together as a class yesterday. I'm just going to turn it all the different directions until we get it one way that we can actually read it. So this is what I did. But one of the fun things, and I can imagine math teachers, this would be really helpful so you could show them how to solve math problems. Or, you know, in language arts, we like to sometimes use a model text and then use that model text to help us in our writing. And sometimes we like to model that as teachers to do a think aloud and to show the kids how that might look. So it's just a way for you to be able to write things down and allow for the kids to see it. So there's that piece. So this is just, you know, just I'm doodling on my paper. So this is how it looks. And the one downside I will tell you is most of our cell phones are pretty fancy. And because of that, it has an autofocus feature on it. So every time I stick my hand under here, it's going to autofocus on my hand. And then it makes it blurry where the words are. So I just have to remember every once in a while to move my hand back and allow it autofocus on the paper so that the kids get a clear picture of whatever it is that I'm writing. So that's tip number one. Just make sure you back your hand out every once in a while so the kids can see, because it'll re-autofocus to the next closest thing to the camera. Okay, so how did I do this? So I'm going to share, hang on, I'm going to stop sharing this, which is not being shared from here. It's being shared from my cell phone. I am going to share to you the picture and kind of walk you through the different things that I utilized to make this happen. So, all right, so this is my laptop that I use for talking to kids and talking to you guys because my school laptop, the microphone doesn't work for whatever reason, but it works on this. So this is something from home. Here's the piece of paper that I filled out with the kids. You need about 12 inches of height. If I had had one of the tall tissue boxes, that totally would have worked, but I didn't, so I had to go hunt around. The reason you want a good solid, like, whole ruler full of height or 12 inches of height is because if it's not quite high enough, you have to keep moving your paper underneath around because you won't be able to see the whole piece of paper. At 12 inches, you have a view of the whole piece of paper, which makes it a lot easier because then you don't have to move it. The other thing that we learned yesterday is, so my tissue box isn't very heavy and it's not very dense. It's very soft and not so dense. But if this is all one object, when you're projecting, you will see whatever's right here in your picture. But if it's two objects, like I have my little bucket of doom and my tissues, when I push the bucket of doom out just a little bit, I don't see the tissues in the picture. So that helped a little so that there's not a distraction. Some of our kids are really visually distracted and I didn't want them to see anything. Also some of our grown-ups, so that just is what it is. The other thing I will tell you is inside of this bucket of doom is actually a can of tomatoes. Because one of the things I realized is if it's going to hold my phone, it needed to be a little bit heavier so that it didn't tip over and fall off of the tissues. So I made it heavier by putting some tomatoes inside of there. And then on top, is something heavy enough to hold your phone in place so it doesn't fall. In this case, it's a can of crushed tomatoes. Nope. Petite diced tomatoes, to be specific. So these are the parts that I use to make it. Couple of other tips. On my cell phone, when I logged in, I made sure that I turned the volume on my phone all the way down and I plugged in a set of headphones. Because when you have two objects in the same room, in the same meeting, it'll create that sound loop and it makes that woo, woo, woo sound really loud, the real high-pitched squeaking sound. So if you put headphones in and you turn your volume down on your phone, it doesn't make any sound at all. So that helped a lot. I'm going to pause here for some questions. All right. Any questions about my setup? About how this works? Ways this could be utilized? Thank you, Madam Sengwa. I was hoping that you would feel like it was helpful. So one of the other things that I've noticed that makes it really simple, I downloaded the Teams app on my phone. So when I go in from the Teams app, and I connect to the same meeting my computer's connected to, and I go to share. On your phone, you get a different set of options, and one of them says share video. And so that way I'm able to just collect the video off of my phone. So that's one thing that I did notice is a little bit different from when I share on my computer. I don't see a headphone jack on my phone. Dr. Crisco, do you have a iPhone? Okay, your headphone jack is your power jack. You should have gotten an adapter in your box that allows you to adapt your headphones. So it has like the regular headphone pluggy hole, and then on the other end it has the power cord plug. It should be in your box if you still have that. That's very common for iPhone 8 and older, 8, 9, 10, X, all those. Other questions? Let me get out of my picture. Maybe.
Miss Meitner?
Yes, ma'am.
Sorry, it's Madame Mousseng, I'm losing my voice.
That's
so you're saying that like if I can use this for like a live session?
Yes. So
because I'd love to do, like, you know, we do story listening in language where we draw the story when we tell the story. So I would have to have, so I would have my meeting on my laptop, and then on my phone, I would have to be on Teams, right? And use that video option.
Right. And you can do it for like a pre-recorded lesson. So if you wanted it to be something that you just showed them later, you can invite yourself into a meeting. So you just go on your calendar and start meeting now, and then go on your phone, open the Teams app, go to your calendar, and it'll show you have a meeting running, and just join your own meeting. And that way you could pre-record it as well. So if you needed, it can work for either type of lesson, live or pre-recorded. Okay. I imagine the math teachers would find this really helpful, because then they could go in and work the math problems and just record themselves working a math problem, and then post it and say, like, here's how to work this math problem. And then the kids watch it step by step appear, and there's not like that whole trying to build it in a PowerPoint one step at a time kind of thing. It's just like you had a whiteboard in front of the kids. But when we use the whiteboard on Teams, the children can write whatever they want to, which can be problematic. And this way you're in control of all the only things that get written in front of the kids.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Absolutely. I'm going to pause our recording or stop our recording, and then you guys are welcome to ask me more questions. But I feel like